is Dr. J. Our next podcast session is about journaling and the power of it. And I have with me Karla Ilicic. She's our fitness, meditation, and yoga coach. And then I have Sarah Murphree, who is our mental health coach and teacher.
Yeah, thank you, Bob. Um, so Sarah, you are a mental health specialist, and I can say that journaling has become. Okay, let me explain. So when I was a young girl, when I was like 10, a young girl, when I was 10, had my diary,
Mm,
and I was journaling. I was journaling a lot because I've had a lot of family drama, and I just didn't really feel like I could talk to anyone about it. And yeah, and the more I wrote, the more I, started feeling better because I was letting all of those emotions out. And then, later I started writing about like other stuff that was happening in my life and like my drama. And then I just kind of stopped doing it because I had no time. And I told myself, every night before bed, you're gonna write. But then what started happening is I would get up in my thoughts so much that I couldn't fall asleep.
wow.
So I stopped journaling because it was kind of making me more anxious.
Mhm.
And then, now, what, like 15 years later, I am hearing about this journaling thing and like revisiting it all and how it's helping people and, like the self care part of it and how it helps you deal with your own problems. So it's really interesting that it's a concept that we've all known like in the 90s and we've been all talking about it. And then somehow in these last 15 years, it kind of got, I
Mm.
don't want to say forgotten, but I've never heard anybody journal or had a diary or something in the last like 15 years. And now it's like this the biggest new thing that you're like journaling and writing things down. So, I want to ask you like what do you think about it and how were you introduced to it and like what's your history with it basically because, mine is like since I was 10.
Well, it's so funny you said that because when I was a young girl as well, 11, I remember my mom gave me my first journal, which was like a diary.
Mm-hmm.
And she gave it to me. And I remember her saying, like, Sarah, you have too many emotions. I can't handle them. Write them down.
Oh,
Which
wow.
was very blunt of her. She's a very blunt Southern woman. But I look back and I remember every night before bed, I would write in this diary. And I always felt better. And I felt like my mind was cleared. And now, as I've gotten older, I've realized that writing in a journal, there's something called brain dumping, where you kind of
Mm-hmm.
all the noise and thoughts to paper and it really clears your mind. But it's interesting you say, like, because I'm a child of the 90s as well. And I remember, like, kind of being embarrassed I had a diary. It
Mm-hmm.
was something you did
Mm-hmm.
not tell people about. And what I love is that, like, I feel like now, kind of similar to what you said, like having a journal is like cool. And journaling is like very encouraged in the mental health
Mm-hmm.
space. And
Which is amazing. And I think all kids should do it too, not just older people. For me, it was more of what it is today. I was helping get rid of all these emotions and drama and everything that I was dealing with that I couldn't know how to handle and I couldn't know who to talk to because nobody my age would probably understand what I was going through because we were all kids. Nobody was thinking about their parents fighting or, having issues at home. And even if they did, nobody was talking about it. The same is with, therapy. Today, therapy is encouraged and it's something that you should be proud of if you're doing. Back in the day, if you said, especially here in Croatia, you're going to a
I
therapist,
in Tennessee,
people
not
would think you were crazy. You're
yes.
like, what is wrong with you? Why are you going to talk to a therapist? Like, is everything fine? Do you have some underlying issues that we don't know about? Whereas now it's being encouraged to go and see a therapist and talk about your problems. So yeah, I'm happy to see this trend. I really am.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say it's interesting how you said when you journaled at night, it would like keep you awake because late, like now in my life as an adult, I love to journal in the morning, and I find that in the
Mm-hmm.
morning I get out all my thoughts, and a lot of them are like kind of goals now, like things I hope to achieve. And something I've like done in my adult life as journaling is like, if I have a goal or something I want to do, I kind of like write what's holding me back.
Mm-hmm.
I found as I journal, usually like something that may hold me back from a goal is usually like something a parent said or somebody said, like,
Mm-hmm.
not good enough, you're not qualified enough. And when I journal and that comes out, I can kind of like be like, oh, well, that is not a fact. That's an opinion. And
Exactly.
on paper helps me to like move forward in my life.
Exactly, but that's because you're older and you're wiser and you're more mature. And that's the thing, because you can use you can use your journal for a lot of different things, for motivation, for inspiration, for, helping you find a solution to a problem. But when you were younger, basically all you did was write what happened that day and your feelings about it. So that's the difference. Although it still helped,
True.
and like you said, now, yes, morning is usually the time when I would write anything. But before, when you wake up in the morning, you have to go to school, you don't have time to write, like your parents are around you. So it's like, it's just, I love to, when I'm talking about journaling, I kind of am thinking about my younger days, because that's what I was doing too. I wasn't writing this dear diary. I woke up and I brushed my teeth. No, I really had a lot of emotions that I was putting down to paper. And I remember when I was picking out my journals, it always had to be the most beautiful journal with the picture. Like I don't know, it was just a lot to me. It meant a lot to me. Like those little notebooks, I think I have like 10 of them maybe.
Yes,
And yeah, and I mean, I still have them, I cherish them because they they meant a lot to me. They were like a friend in a way. So it's very interesting because like a few years back, I know that I opened one and I started reading through it, and I was like, wow, these are like big things that you're writing here, like big emotions. I thought like, oh my God, I'm gonna read something so silly. But no, really, I had a fight with a friend and I was trying to understand like what happened, and I was like putting down all the possible things that could have happened. And I wrote like 10 pages of what I should do, how I should talk to this person. And it braved me up. It gave me courage to actually come to school, talk to this person, and be like, hey, why aren't we talking? Like, what happened?
mm,
And I don't think that if I didn't do that, that I would have the courage to do it, because I practically prepared myself for all the worst situations. I was like, okay, she's gonna tell me she hates me. She's gonna tell me that I'm stupid. She's gonna tell me that she doesn't want to be my friend anymore, blah, blah, blah. So, like I wrote all that down, and it kind of helped in a way. And the same is today. Like when you're saying you have a goal, and you're probably thinking about all the things that can, be in your way, and you're
mm,
trying to dismiss them one by one. So whether it's like you said, something that your parents said, something that your friend said, or maybe something else that you don't even understand until you start writing about it. And you're
yeah.
like, oh, okay, this
Yeah,
could be
and
it.
even like what you're saying, because my journals as a child were very dramatic as well, like big emotions, trying to, my parents separated when I was 9, a lot going on. And I think we forget that sometimes kids take in a lot, and they are like, they have just as
Oh
many
my God, yeah.
and feelings as we do as adults. So I think encouraging journaling is very, yeah, beneficial to their young minds who are like, whoa, what is going on?
Hmm. And the funny thing is, I had a client, and she was struggling a lot with issues at her home because she has 4 kids and her husband recently got fired. So she was, working and being practically, the only one bringing home any income with 4 kids, very young kids, and she had to take care of all of them. She was very stressed out and she couldn't let it show with them, obviously. So she didn't know how to let it out. And her only coping system was food.
Hmm.
So she was eating, emotional eating, and you know how it goes. So she created a ton of problems for herself. And basically one of the, I was giving her options of how to kind of change that and channel that into something else. And one of the things that I gave her as kind of like a little exercise was journaling, because when you're a mom, with 4 kids, and I can't actually tell you to go and run. Who's going to be with the babies, or like punch a bag? Where are you going to do that? So, journaling is something you can do anywhere. You can do it on the toilet, basically. So whenever you're alone, you can grab it. Oh, if you're a mom with 4 kids, probably the bathroom is the only place where you're alone. If so, that's why I said that. But yeah, and she told me that it helped her a lot, because she just started writing, 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 and she was like angry and writing. So, I've heard that some people, are great with it. Some people can't seem to get a hang of it. They write like when they think about it, because they just forget. But I think that in general, it's a really great tool to help you with, just dealing with your own issues, whatever they are. And you can write 2 sentences, or you can write 20 pages. It doesn't matter. I think that it's a really good thing to kind of focus on. But one of the things that I know that people ask me, and that's something that I wanted to ask you, is what should I write about? And then, I always say whatever. You can write whatever. So what would you kind of recommend people to start with? Because they're like overwhelmed. They don't know what to talk about or what to write about.
Yeah, that's a great question, because I think, journaling definitely relieves a lot of stress out of your mind, because you're getting it out through pen to paper. But I think what a great thing to write about is like, what is stressing you out? And I find usually it is a relationship or a person in somebody's life. Like maybe their mother stresses them out, or their in-law, or their roommate. And sometimes to avoid such like intense confrontation or fighting, if you journal why that person's making you upset and you see that, I have found that's very healing to really like address struggles in relationships. Because even, I think as an adult sometimes, as a kid, in some ways my parents were like my heroes, and now as an adult, sometimes I'm like, I don't know if I agree with that, or mom, I have more,
Yeah.
thoughts and opinions because I'm an adult as well. And I found when I journal, it helps me kind of process like what's worth addressing and what's not. Like what should I really let go of and what should I bring up? So I think journaling really helps sort like, what discussions or confrontations are really worth having.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so too. I think that it's kind of the equivalent of stopping and thinking before you say something,
Oh,
because yeah, I mean, it's very easy to kind of just, being in a situation where you're super stressed out, and you're, saying all the wrong things, doing all the wrong things, because you don't have the time to stop and think about it. But if you kind of force yourself to write it all down, then you're in a much better situation, because you are basically, allowing yourself to carve out the time to put it all down on paper. And it's not the same as saying to yourself, okay, something happens, you forget, and then you're in the same situation as you were before. So I think that putting it down, shows kind of a really good perspective of the whole situation, because you're like seeing it from outside in a way. And I think that, yeah, and I think that people who are dealing with a lot of drama in their lives should definitely try doing this, because first of all, it's free. Like you're just writing somewhere. Yeah, and it's a big thing for a lot of people. Whenever I would talk to someone and I would give them all these options, I know that they would always go first something that they don't have to search out and pay for, which I completely understand, especially after last year. People are trying to, minimize their spendings in any possible way. That's number one. And then number two is it's easy access. You can do it whenever or wherever. You don't have to go to someone, you don't have to call someone, you don't have to, you know, have a specific time in the day when you're doing it every day. It can be any time, any day. So I think that's a really good thing with journaling, that you can, pick it up whenever.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, I think that when it comes to journaling, you can always go back and reread some of the things that you wrote, and it can kind of help you.
Yeah. Because I found too, especially for like goal setting, I'll go back to some old journals and see all my like fears or doubts, and then kind of the progress of like, oh, it worked. And now I'm like, oh, wait, okay, that goal worked last year. And just seeing the progress of how like writing, you can kind of see your growth through life.
Yeah. And you inspire yourself too,
Hmm.
because you think, that was your worst problem 2 years ago, let's say. Look at yourself now. Look where you are. So maybe, you still managed to do whatever you intended to. So I think that's also good, because it kind of gives you strength to push forward for another goal.
Right. And the power of self-reflecting, because I feel it's so easy for this generation and society to turn to an Instagram or social media or scrolling instead of kind of
Mm-hmm.
addressing how they're feeling in their own life. And I'd love to know what you think about like journaling versus getting on social media. Um,
Oh, absolutely. I think that social media in 90% of the time is a distraction.
mm,
And I'm not a fan of social media in that sense. No, really, I'm not. I use social media for three purposes only. One, to inspire others and help them, because people who are my followers, like the majority of them, and who come to me for advice, or who listen to me or watch my stories or read my posts, are actually people who want to be there. Like, that's number one. So that's what social media is for me, to try to help other people. I'm not using social media as my own personal day-to-day life situation where you're watching me do whatever I'm doing, but I'm basically always trying to, inspire people in some way.
mm,
Secondly, social media for me is a place where I can learn something from other people, because the people that I follow and accounts that I follow are accounts that I can follow, that I can learn something from, or, that help me, motivate me in a way. And then third, I think that social media can be a great place to like kind of widen your horizons, and find, because it's a big mix up of different cultures, of different places, and you can find a lot of things and learn a lot of things about a lot of things. So basically, yeah, it's like a mishmash of everything. And if you know what you're kind of looking for, you can really learn something, and you can discover something. But it's also a place where you can get lost
mm.
scrolling through very, I don't want to say stupid things, but unimportant things. There's a lot of celebrity gossip, a lot of drama that's not a part of your life, and it's just a distraction, basically. So it's very hard to tell someone
Mm.
to check their phone and see how many hours a day are they spending on their Instagram or Facebook or whatever, because once they see that number, they're kind of like, they can't even understand that they've come up to that point. But today, whenever we're in traffic, we're standing in lines, we're waiting on someone or something, the first thing we do is we open up our phone and we go on social media. That's just unfortunately today's life. And it's something that's very hard to control. But I do think that self reflection should be more important. It's just that people are not constantly reminded of it.
Mm.
Whereas, you open Instagram, you see something funny, and you're like, oh my God, let me share that to my friends. And then you're scrolling and seeing something, and then you're like, oh my God, she posted this. Oh, she's where? Why is she traveling here? So it's kind of like you get in the zone, and then 20 minutes later, you're still doing it.
That is,
So that's the dangerous part of it, basically, because you're moving from this, educational, inspirational, motivational part to like basically gossip. And you're just like mindlessly doing it. I think that's where the problem lies. I don't think the social media is the devil like people tell it is. I
yeah.
just think that it's a distraction, a huge one.
I know I was giving a teaching some students about social media because they were asking, what's a healthy amount. So I did some research and found that like experts suggest you should be on Instagram a max 30 minutes a day, but the average person is on 2 hours a day.
Mm.
Like, wow, that was just really eye-opening for me, because saying, oh, I'm on social media only 30 minutes a day, feels like such a low number, or like, oh, 30 minutes. But I feel like it's
Yeah.
important to remember that, like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Let's go back to like before we had phones, we can journal. We can take a
Yeah.
walk, we can call a friend.
In fact, I wanted to tell you something which I didn't want to interfere, but journaling could be a substitute for therapy.
Yeah, in
When,
a way.
in a way, when you think about it, when you generally go meet a therapist, you may spend an hour, 45 minutes, whatever. Most of it, you're just talking yourself. The
Mm-hmm.
therapist may or may not even say anything, you know.
That's true.
And there is a value in self-expression. Like when you journal, you're just sharing your thoughts, putting it on paper, you're reflecting, and you start understanding what's going on with you better.
Mm-hmm.
It has an amazing intellectual value that we sometimes don't recognize. To me, I think is maybe not equal, but getting pretty close to free therapy. You know,
In a way. Yeah.
it doesn't cost you a dime, and like you said, you can do it anytime you want. You can do it any way you want, and just have fun with it. So I think it's
Sure.
it's very powerful.